Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and today we are at the VHU. This is the Czech Army Museum, part of the Military Historical Institute. They have a fantastic reference collection that I've been filming from here, and I figured we should take a look through the actual public exhibition galleries. So let's head on in. All right, just coming in, basic entranceway, we have a couple pieces of cool ordnance here on display at the opening. This should give you a little bit of a taste for what we're in for. We have basically four floors of exhibits. All right, we are down here. We're going to head all the way up to the top and then work our way down to the present day. So this is all housed in a building that was actually purpose-built as a museum back in the early 1930s. So we've got galleries on the left and right of each floor. Here we have everything up to 1740. So a nice selection of the more medieval sorts of artifacts. This isn't my specialty, but there is definitely some cool stuff in here, and original as opposed to reproduction. I think we have the first firearms showing up here, including this that has 3 barrels on the front and another 4 barrels in the back to be shot matchlock style as a backup. That's pretty cool. All right, but carrying on, I'm going to sort of speed walk through here. I know some of you guys are interested in this, but you'll just have to come to the museum and see it yourself. Here we're getting into a bit more of the older firearms. Nice selection of wall guns. And that takes us to 1740 and on to the other side, which is 1740 up to 1914. And by the way, if you don't know who these two guys are, you should Google them. All right, now we're getting into Austro-Hungarian Empire territory. So there's a nice selection of uniforms, in this case reproduction, but there are some authentic ones back here as well. Firearms, miniature models of cannons are something that you see actually in a surprising number of European military museums. Those used to be made, I think, as like familiarization models. It's kind of neat. Original uniform and equipment material displayed actually in the floor. So Czechoslovakia has a tremendous amount of material from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and we see a lot of that here. So this is a cool atrium room that has displays on both the upper and lower floors. We've got some neat older repeating guns. Really highly embellished stuff. Like, I really appreciate the fact, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Got a breech loading wheel lock there. I really appreciate the actual number of firearms that they have on display. That's the sort of thing that we often don't see in modern museums, but we do see it here in a museum that's been relatively recently refurbished. All right, heading upstairs, there's a particular cabinet here that has a number of developmental Krnka firearms. So we've got a magazine loading bolt actions, that's a Berdan, and I'm not even sure off the top of my head what that one is. Here's one other gallery. This is a gun that they are particularly proud of, having just recently acquired it. an officer's model of Springfield trapdoor with all of the fancy sights and accoutrements. Missing the cleaning rod, but that's a pretty cool, pretty rare gun to run into. And, you know, it just happens to be next to like a North and Skinner revolving rifle and a 1 of 1,000 Winchester. Moving on, we have some more Austro-Hungarian imperial stuff. We're getting into the smokeless powder age here. We've got a mitrailleuse, we've got a Salvatore Dormus machine gun, which that's the water-cooled version, and maybe it doesn't look that weird sitting on its Schwarzlos mount there. But if we come over here, that right there is a cutaway of the air-cooled version. It is a super funky, weird gun, and I look forward to the day when I'm able to actually film one of those. This whole display case, by the way, is cutaways. Pretty cool. All right, and now off to World War I. Now, all the displays in here, I will say, are a bit dark. They deliberately keep the light down with just like specific highlighting in the exhibits. So this is where we get into uniforms and accoutrements, equipment of all of the World War I combatants. Let's see, where is he? Ah, there we go. We knew he'd be in here somewhere. There's my French poilu with his label. A mixture of artifacts of all sorts, not just firearms. All right, here's some pretty cool stuff. That is a 1913 Shosha. That's the original version of the Shosha that was mounted on aircraft. And at some point, I will convince them to pull that out of the display so that I can film it. Next to it, by the way, is another extremely rare and cool gun. That's a 20mm World War I German Becker cannon. And the two of those make an MG 0818 look a bit normal. Flamethrower. A couple of trench rifles. There's a straight pull M95 in a trench rifle setup. And that's actually not World War I, but it fits here better than anywhere else. There. Obviously, we're going through this a bit faster than you normally would because I don't want this video to last forever. This museum does kind of keep going, and I will always stop and pause at a Villa Perosa. And over we go to the interwar period. So, similar style. Of course, there were a number of Czechoslovak legions that fought in various places during World War I and after World War I. There we go. We got some more of our French guys. But this is not a museum dedicated specifically and exclusively to Czech equipment. It does cover a very good international medley with, of course, some Czech highlights. It's actually a Yugoslav production version of the ZB-30. Here we go. This is one of the best of the gun display rooms because we've got some really cool stuff like this 1924 pattern predecessor to the ZB-26, some cutaways, Czech semi-auto experimental rifles, some more semi-auto Czech experimental rifles, a Czech model of 1938 submachine gun, adopted, never put into service. I've got a video coming on one of those. A whole series of developmental Czech pistols. Here we have Czech anti-aircraft machine guns. All right, and we emerge down here in the basement in World War II. Obviously, World War II did not start well for Czechoslovakia with German occupation. That's not going to stop them from having some super interesting rare guns here on display. All right, now this is a huge two-story gallery. We'll head upstairs in a moment as well. Just a really cool immersive experience here with all sorts of arms and equipment on display. It's a Goliath, remote-controlled anti-tank mine. There's another neat Czech anti-tank rifle, that one used by the Germans. I do believe there is some particularly cool and rare stuff back here. Suomi. All right, let's head upstairs. Oh, look at that. An original unmodified 1941 Oryza. And one of the Russian flamethrowers, designed to look mostly like a rifle. 43M Hungarian submachine gun, the occasional FG-42. Now here's something particularly rare. That is a German Fliegerfaust. That's the only one of those I have ever seen in real life, and they've got it here on display, along with a selection of other German late war equipment. So we've got some Volkssturm rifles, stamped sheet metal receiver, VG-15. This is all about the Czech assistance to Israel in 1948 and thereabouts. So we've actually got the Israeli Uzi and the Czech submachine gun that was a heavy inspiration for it. That's an MG-34 with a few Israeli modifications made to it, and a ZB-26 bipod, because it was refurbed and then shipped over by the Czechs. And now we come to one of the really cool parts here. There are 3 entire displays of Czech experimental and developmental and otherwise funky, weird guns. We got a couple ZB-47s, like that guy, for example. Who doesn't want one of those? That would be cool to take a close look at. Okay, I'm going to tear myself away from that display. We've got a couple more 1950s pieces here, and then we're going to head off to the Cold War. By way of a quad dish gun, of course. Passing the communist-era border fence. I really do like the combination of display items, especially having a lot of guns around, with having some sort of environmental display elements. Things like a section of the Berlin Wall. It gives you a really nice combination of seeing everything that was going on. You get a feel for the era, as well as being able to see very specific artifacts. Here we go. The VZ-58 rifle with its complete night sight setup, bipod, flash hider, and infrared scope. Vietnam. Some more Cold War era. Moving forward now, we get to the point of post-communism, Czechoslovakian or Czech Republic forces being sent on various NATO missions. That is the CZ-2000 or Lada, right there. There's another one. More modern Czech equipment, up to and including the Bren 805. Plus an assortment of various other things like Croatian guns. And this is kind of cool. This is actually, so it's a ZB-26, of course, which was designed in Czechoslovakia. This particular one was an Afghan contract gun sold to Afghanistan in the 1920s or 1930s that was found by one of the Czech missions to Afghanistan recently and brought back in remarkably good condition for having spent a bunch of time in Afghanistan. It's an assortment of firearms brought back, again, by Czech forces from Afghanistan. And the exhibition concludes with a memorial to fallen Czech soldiers and the plaque from the Afghan Czech embassy. So that obviously was done way faster than any normal person would actually walk through that exhibition. If you found anything in there that looked cool, and I can't imagine that you didn't, there's a tremendous amount of cool stuff, definitely plan to stop by here if you find yourself in Prague. It's a cool city, it's a nice place to have a vacation, and this museum is just the cherry on top. Thanks for watching.